I posted the first part of this story a few days ago. Anyway, this one revolves around the little girl I saw standing in the doorway of my hospital room. I can't recall the time, day, or date of this, as not only as it was so long ago in 1991, but I was still drugged up to the eyeballs on who knows what. I had recovered enough for the next step in surgery, and that was my skin grafting. My surgeons were very clever and forward-thinking folk. They had put my lost leg into a freezer in order to harvest the skin for the graft. The area where the skin is taken from usually hurts far more than the graft itself. So for them to think of this so far in advance earns my utmost gratitude, as that would give me one less headache in the future. The first hospital I attended sent me to a hospital called Shotley Bridge, where I was placed into the hands of Mr. Berry, who took good care of me. I was put to sleep every 2 or 3 days, simply because they couldn't move me without it. So sleep for bath, sleep for x-rays, sleep for hairbrushed, sleep for this, and sleep for that. The burn care unit wasn't known for their excellent child care abilities, however, and they failed to detect a kidney infection. A kidney infection isn't like a normal urinary tract infection, much like a migraine is not a normal headache, and a kidney infection can take hold in a matter of hours. My back started to hurt, and they brushed it off, put it down to my injuries, so they increased my painkillers. My back got worse, and still they brushed it off. Worse still, and they finally did a few tests, but nothing showed up. So again, they increased the pain medication. 2 weeks later, and the only way to describe the level of pain I felt is to tell you what I did about it. Some sweet soul in the unit had given my mother one of those gel packs to help with my back, and instructed my mum to warm it up in the microwave, wrap it up in a towel, and put it where it was needed. This was fine, for a bog-standard backache, but for kidneys with an infection and treated for 2 weeks, warm just isn't good enough. So I had my mother heat this gel pack up in the microwave, and when she wasn't looking, I would slip the towel off and put that scalding hot gel directly onto my bare skin. She had to heat that thing up every couple of hours because I kept complaining that it had gone cold. Scalding hot gel placed onto naked skin every 2 hours isn't a good thing to do, I might add, and certainly not for 2 weeks. When Mr. Berry came to discuss my grafting with my mother, she casually mentioned my aching back, so he said he would examine me immediately for anything out of the ordinary. Apparently, a back that resembles corned beef is out of the ordinary, and so is bloody piss. He only needed to take one look at the catheter bag to know what I had. Have you ever seen a furious surgeon? I have, and it's nothing short of downright scary. I watched through the window opposite my bed as Mr. Berry spoke as quietly and calmly as he could speak. His smiling face nodded with each word he said. The 2 nurses who stood in front of him were ghost white as he asked why, exactly, a patient hadn't been tested for infection. A patient who, and this is where he raised his voice, not only had a gaping wound where a hip was supposed to be, but a patient due for an extensive skin grafting operation. His voice lowered, but I heard how he casually explained that the infection could have more or less killed me on the operating table. His ease and friendliness belied how angry he was, and I knew I never wanted to be on Mr. Berry's bad side, ever. I told you the above to simply make you fully aware of how atrocious the child care in that unit was, and now you'll be able to completely understand this story. My home city had a fundraiser for me, and enough money was earned for my mum to buy me a few bits and bobs to help me keep my boredom at bay. One of those bits and bobs was a small TV and a video player that I used to watch my beloved horror movies. Yes, I had been watching horror movies since I was 3, and old enough to navigate the stairs, go down the hallway, and watch the Evil Dead through the 30-degree crack under the living room door handle. So this particular night, in the BCU, I was watching Jaws when I saw something out of the corner of my eye, or more like someone. A little someone, to be precise. She belonged in the room to the left of mine, but there she was, standing in my doorway, with blood literally squirting out of her left arm. She was around 5, 7 at most, and she was just stood there looking at me whilst her blood splattered across my room door. Because my pain meds had increased so much due to the infection, neither my brain nor my mouth could function properly, and so for about a full complete minute, I simply stared at her, and she smiled and waved. What did I do? I smiled and waved back, of course. I was 11, off my face, and had been told so many times that I was just hallucinating, that I honestly thought this girl was as real as all the other people I saw. It wasn't until I spoke that my mother woke up to see who I was speaking to, yelled, "Jesus Christ," and basically raised the roof 8 p.m. at night as she phoned Mr. Berry, and even she tried to find the nurses. Keyword there, folks, is tried. My mother ended up taking some of the gauze from my stash of dressings and seeing to the little lass herself until some staff could be heard hurrying down the hallway. Their blame came louder than their footsteps. The girl had pulled her IV right out of her vein, and without anything to prevent it, her blood was just sprouting everywhere, and the area where she had stood pretty much looked like Tina's bedroom from Nightmare on Elm Street. Her parents went off at the staff, which they can't be blamed for. The staff on this unit were as much use as a chocolate fire guard. I know 2 of those nurses were fired, which one received a formal warning. Unfortunately, one of the new staff turned out to be a total arsehole, and she didn't last long either. As for those other people who I hallucinated, that's for another post.